These people were part of a movement that believed in things beyond Earth. There was no stopping the impending doom in the way that they saw the world, and because of it, they each ended up in one of the most disturbing house parties ever in history. Marshall Applewhite became very, very sick from a near-death experience as part of his heart disease, winding up bedridden in the hospital. Bonnie, his nurse, immediately started to chat him up, talk to him, show him her ways of life. Literally, in this entire conversation, the two connected, but not in a very romantic type of connection. This was a dark and sinister type of connection. And it was that human bodies really aren't human bodies at all, but they're more like this shell of an empty container that hosts the soul. And at any point, a person can decide to leave their human shell of bodies and have their soul breach into another interstellar type of existence in space. And all throughout their local scenery, everyone they'd meet, they would try and convince them as well. Their preachings, as it was becoming, they were starting to form little study groups of anyone who would really listen to their newfound perspective of life. Marshall, with his previous devotion of Christianity, would tell these people, you know how in the Bible it talks about God, angels, Jesus. Those people, those beings, actually were never real, but instead it was extraterrestrial aliens, these higher transcended beings. We were born to solely wait until the higher power extraterrestrial beings would then arrive back to Earth, preparing their spaceships to arrive and collect human souls who would devote themselves and have faith in this newfound way of extraterrestrial life. They would now graduate to the next level and have these newfound perfected types of lives, and Earth would just wither away and be recycled into the depths of darkness in the universe. 3 whole years would pass after Bonnie had initially convinced Marshall from that hospital bed about the transcending of human souls into space. And now the two were going to open a store. A bookstore, actually, and it was going to be filled with astrology books, and it was going to be a place where they could hold meetings in a more proper fashion. And all of the people that had been listening up until this point, well, they would attend this bookstore area for classes. Bonnie and Marshall would continue to teach and have regular hostings of meetings to continue to preach and make their group even stronger, and they called it the class. The class was a very organization type of atmosphere. Think Freemasonry and your hierarchy of ranks and secrecy, the whole nine, even with types of uniforms, and they encouraged everyone to be celibate. So there was a sense of purity in this entire situation, and there was a direction that they wanted to take people as well, and it was this one message that they would tell everyone, specifically that Earth wasn't the final destination of what it was to be human. In fact, Earth was just a starting realm, and we were only here to fight off evil, and they called that evil bad aliens. And those who would devote themselves throughout life with this belief, they would be the ones who would then transcend into a perfect, soulful freedom within space. A few of these classes later out of Oregon, and Bonnie and Marshall had convinced yet again more people, but these people weren't just passing through for some classes. These were 20 different random adults out of Oregon who were now being asked something in particular. Bonnie and Marshall were now demanding that they would pack everything up, leave their families, their jobs, their responsibilities, the lives that they had built in Oregon, and leave that all to go and stay with them at a house in Colorado. Once they had gotten there, an alien spaceship was soon to arrive, take their souls, and all of them would transcend into the new kingdom of heaven. But for that era of the class, it actually didn't end up going anywhere meaningful, at least for the plans that Bonnie and Marshall had, because Bonnie ended up passing away. And for Marshall, she was really the only one that he had that very obsessed connection with, as she was the one who transitioned him in the first place. So, with Bonnie not around anymore, he stopped all of the practices of the class and the beliefs of this extraterrestrial existence of the human soul. He closed down the bookshop. He stopped hosting anything. He stopped spreading his word, all of it. And nobody had heard from him, at least for the next couple of decades. Eventually, he did move on with his life. Nobody heard of the class anymore. Nobody knew about this newfound belief that they were preaching all throughout Oregon. Nothing. But in the 90s, he actually heard about a newfound information, but this wasn't a belief. This was actual science and astronomy. There was a comet that was going to pass by Earth very soon, and this kind of sparked up his inspiration once again to bring up his ideas. To Marshall, this comet, called Hale-Bopp, was his newfound meaning behind how he could pursue these beliefs once again. And the class took on a new form, literally, because he started recruiting once again. He found this new love for this, the passion that Bonnie had given him. He had a new reason to pursue these beliefs once again, and soon he was up 30 members of the class, continuing to preach, continuing to bring people in and corral them and prepare them for their adventures. His new message was very similar to what the original message was. You devote your life to believing that your soul will transcend into an alien spaceship type of form, extraterrestrial space life. But it took on the meaning with Hale-Bopp because he now said that the spaceship was hiding behind the comet, and the comet was not a comet. It was this shield, this protection of the alien spaceship. It was now time for the aliens to arrive to Earth and take on these 30 individual souls. In October of 1995, Marshall set out to California, Rancho Santa Fe, California, to look for a big property of a rental house that he could host these newfound 30 members of the class. And along convincing the landlord that this was okay, he made it seem like this was going to be for professional reasons. There were going to be activities going on in this home, not just for 30 people to live there. And in doing so, he convinced all of the male members of the class to perform castration surgeries to stay abstinent. And it worked. They all lived there for the next 2 years, awaiting the perfect moment that they would transcend into the alien spaceship that was behind this comet, preparing to pick them up from the house. And on the night of, Marshall took them all out to dinner, at their last dinner. Not just their last meal together, but their last meal as humans on this earth. It was 21 women and 18 men that all went to the exact same restaurant, ordering the exact same thing. Once they finished their dinner, they went back to the home. They changed out into black outfits, black Nike shoes. They wore this sort of uniform of that Star Trek Freemasonry group type of atmosphere in the house, and they all started to kill themselves. They started to drink concoctions of drugs, and slowly but surely they all started to go one by one. They had even all packed a suitcase individually that their souls would carry throughout with them on the spaceship to take them to the higher plane of existence. All of these people were found lying under these purple type of blankets with $5 bills and coins of change still in their pockets. They had all drank concoctions of phenobarbital and vodka, lying there dead and lifeless. Once the deed was done, there was actually an anonymous tip. Might it have been someone from within the home that didn't follow through with drinking that concoction, or maybe even a curious neighbor that was watching the bizarre happenings from across the street. They had noticed that there was people ranging from 20 through 70. The cops scattered throughout the whole house, and it was the most eerie atmosphere of all time. From that day forward, they were known as Heaven's Gate.